Thank you everyone for coming to our panel on professionals and the pandemic. We have with us several esteemed promoters, several esteemed individuals from around the world who have experience with promoting professional wrestling both before and after the pandemic. And then after we hear from the professionals, we will have our professional keynote with Jazzy Gambert, so that we have a really great start to this morning, hearing from professionals. So for our first panel then, we have Dann Read from Eve. We have Vince from Wrestle Square. We have Diego Piacentini. I hope I said that right, but let me know, Diego, if I didn't. My Italian, not so much. From Italy, from the Italian Wrestling Association. And then we have Jeremy Gomez from here in the United States with Generation Championship Wrestling. Hopefully we will have Sam West come in and Laura and Jean Miller as well. But I just want to throw it open to you gentlemen then, maybe to say more about where you come from, what you've been doing as a wrestling promoter. And then the main question is, how has professional wrestling changed for you? How has the pandemic impacted what you've been doing from the past? Has it presented new challenges, given you new opportunities? And of course, attendees, as you're listening, please feel free to put questions into the chat, and I will ask our speakers when they would like to have questions be asked. But gentlemen, what's happened with the pandemic? How's it impacted what you've done in the past?
Fun. It's been a lot of fun. Not at all fun. Well, no, but I'll start. So in the States, we went from, I literally had a show on Valentine's Day last year. And that was about our last show for almost a year, because about a week after Valentine's Day, the pandemic went full force. So everything was just a full stop here, as it was pretty much all over the world. So, you know, we went from, and that was right before WrestleMania last year. So we were all pretty much locked and loaded for WrestleMania. Everybody was booked, everybody, plane tickets booked, everybody was, coming in. We got, in Florida, we got a letter that's saying that WWE was closing down WrestleMania. Some of us actually knew about a week before it happened, which therein lies another problem, because you can't do anything until they announce. So it was crazy. I'd say there was about 70 companies in Tampa last year for WrestleMania when the pandemic hit. This year, WrestleMania being next week, there's about 5 or 6 of us running, and the rest of them, a lot of them didn't make it. A lot of them closed their doors. A lot of the workers, I know some workers that lost 100 bookings in a week. So it was fun, man. It was a lot of shuffling around. A lot of the promoters that were only wrestling promoters and had never promoted anything else had to learn about pandemic assessment plans and just different ways to do things that they don't do in indie wrestling. We were a little lucky. I'm from Tampa. WrestleMania was in Tampa, so when we shut down, I didn't really have to leave anywhere. I just had to pretty much deal with it. But, the workers now, they have to get COVID tests every week. Starting to get vaccinations, but vaccinations in America are kind of funny right now. So it's just been a lot of, it's just been stepping up your pandemic assessment plans. After a year now, we're finally starting to run. Actually, I'm at an event I'm setting up right now. It's not a wrestling event today. I do other events. So, in the past year, we've got to run about 3 events. The wrestling started back up now. We went from 0 show, recording everything, to very, very, very minimal attendance. Got to check temperatures, got to make sure everything's just uber clean, and it's really just paying a lot more of attention. Obviously the crowds are still a little worried and scared, so it's just doing, do your due diligence. The people that really loved wrestling and really cared about being actually in it, they're still around, and you know, the people that were just kind of doing it to meet people, they're kind of gone now. So it's just basically a revamp of the whole scene, at least here in Florida.
I suppose that's the thing. We're all going to have a different experience because I think a lot of us are all a number of us are in different countries. Am I right? Like, I think Sam was the only other person that's from the UK, and unless he's come on recently, he hasn't come on yet. So we're all going to have a very different, like you said, your shutdown, was it the week before WrestleMania that you got the alert to?
Technically, Florida was supposed to be shutting down before that, but until Vince says he's closing the doors, all the wrestling companies are still a go. And as soon as old man says he's done, that's when the rest of us were pretty much done too. We knew it was coming. A couple of us got to prepare for it. Like I got to tell I got to tell everybody that was coming out of England that obviously they couldn't come because the airports were shut down. Tajiri actually called me from Japan and told me the airports were shut down. So it was just a lot of scrambling. But
I think US was one of the last ones, wasn't it?
Yeah, as usual. Typical America. Yeah, we were gonna test it as long as possible. And yeah, and then Florida, where I'm at, we were like the absolute last one. Is what it is.
Now you became the first one of the first ones, wasn't it, to come out, or you just carried on allowing certain things, wasn't it? Hence why. It was really like I'm actually, other than a wrestling promoter, I'm actually in the large event industry. So both my industries got shut down like immediately. Yeah.
So it was just, you could do things, you couldn't do large scale events, even if they were outside. You could, but the public reception was going to be horrible. And on top of that, why risk it? You know, you don't want to risk people getting sick anyways. So everything kind of got shut down. We were allowed to reopen a little bit. Again, it all stems back to kind of Vince. When NXT decided to start running again shows in-house, no attendees, that's pretty much when everybody else started running again. It was, to be honest, it was pretty much against the law in Florida, and then they did a deal with a governor or something like that.
A nice $6 million deal, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was only $6 million. It was a lot more, but yeah. And now they're running Mania down the street. They're prepping, and like I said, it went from about 70 companies in town last year to like, I'm running, Game Changers running, the other GCW, Internet Wrestling's running, WrestleCon, and Mania. And I think maybe AEW is doing a house show at Mania Week or something like that. Something like that.
Yeah, I think we shut down quite a bit before you guys, because I know our last show was like March the 7th. It was the day before International Women's Day. And Jazzy was actually in the co-main event of that show. So like, and that was, but we were still, at that time, it wasn't, you know, what the pandemic became. We weren't sure. I remember being on the phone to the venue that we were scheduled to be running during Mania weekend. And I remember saying to them, look, I don't think it's happening. You know, I think this is going to get a lot more serious than what we realize. And, you know, that obviously ended up being the case. But yeah. I think like that was one, like the last weekends there were shows, maybe there were shows like the following weekend. But I definitely think like that we were shut down, you know, getting on for like around the 20th of March, that kind of point. But I think we'd already kind of come to that conclusion a little bit before that was the inevitable. But we're still not up and running over here as well. Like there's a roadmap that our government have put in place that they've announced that means that they believe that we're going to be able to begin running events as of the end of June, and that things can kind of go back to normal then. But I literally had a text message from one of the venue managers yesterday saying that the government's wording is a little bit misleading. And so there's not a lot of confidence that even those things will actually happen. So we're still very much in the dark on that aspect. So a lot of promoters are announcing their schedules for the rest of the year beginning from June. But it's whether or not those things will happen, we don't know. So that means like the majority of the indie companies over here, I say majority, all of them, you know, haven't run a show since March last year. Now there's been a couple that have done no fans tapings, And we were actually scheduled to do one in December. And then literally the day before, we were scheduled to do the No Fans taping, which you can imagine, as I'm sure you know from what you just said, how much of an absolute ball ache doing anything along those lines are. You know, literally the day before, the government came out and put us into a stricter lockdown. The country was based on different lockdowns depending on where you were in the country. We had like a tier system going on. And literally on what I believe we were due to tape on the Sunday, and then on the Saturday they just put out, as of midnight tonight, you know, the whole country's in lockdown, and that pretty much put an end to all of that. And that's where the UK is. You know, it's you know, like I say, there's a chance that things are going to open up against in June, but a number of venue managers. I mean, this is literally the message I got. There is currently some confusion regarding the roadmap, whereby all social restrictions may be lifted in June. This does not, however, expressly detail social distancing in small venues. And it looks like that information won't come until June at the earliest, when the government reviews the situation. As furlough has been increased to September, and various other things have been increased to September, there is a general feeling that things may continue. And the rest of Europe is entering its third wave of the pandemic right now as well. And usually, you know, we end up getting it a few weeks after. Our cases aren't increasing like the rest of Europe. The vaccine has been available longer and in bigger quantities here in the UK than it has in other European countries. So we'll see how much of an effect that has. But everything's still guesswork very much over here. So it's all been about trying to innovate, which I actually enjoy. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I like it when rules are broken. I hate following the rules. Like, to me, that's the problem with professional wrestling, is everyone tries to, you know, put a map on how you do it. And there's no map on how you do wrestling. There's no rules. You're limited only by your own creativity. You know, that's literally it. And so once someone destroys all the rules, and the pandemic destroyed all the rules, it's like, brilliant. We literally are pretty much free to, you know, think without consequence, with the exception, of course, of people's safety and everything along those lines. But we're literally free to think without consequence of, you know, coming up with new ideas on how to do things. And it was just, you know, there were so many cool things that, you know, we kept setting up. And then literally there was literally going to be like events and tapings happening in other countries that we were doing. And then like the rules there would change, and then the rules here, it was just constant messes, which was always incredibly frustrating. But it was, at the same time, I like a challenge, and it was kind of cool that, like, you know, everything, you know, it's almost like a free for all in terms of what are you going to do now? You know, forget the rules, forget what you've been doing. None of that matters right now. And I like that. I like thinking outside the box. So that's one bizarre positive spin that I can put on this, is I honestly believe that so many people will be thinking outside the box. And I hope that so many people will be thinking outside the box from numerous perspectives, including from a business perspective, that when we come out and things try to get back to as normal, there'll be so many more new, fresh ideas on ways to produce content, ways to produce show, and even types of shows and anything else that I haven't thought of, that I'm sure a number of other people will be thinking of as well, which will totally break the rules, the supposed rules of what a wrestling show is and how it's supposed to be presented.
Diego or Vince, would you like to share your perspective?
You're a bit quiet just there, Karis. I don't think anyone heard who you're referring to.
Sorry, Diego, would you care to tell us about your experience?
I didn't hear you. Sorry. In Italy, we had the first lockdown at 8th of March. So at the time, we were about to open up a new school that was exclusively for the professional wrestling. So not a gym, but a professional wrestling school. Only professional wrestling was allowed in that school, and we have to shut down before wrap. So then the information about the government were very, very bad. Very, very bad. We were supposed to do a training camp with René Dupree in a kid in May, and we have to cancel it. And then they open up in June. They open up at professional wrestling and contact sports in Italy. And we made 13 shows in the summer. Every week we had a little show in open space, not in venue. So we have that show in a sports center, but at open. And then when September comes, they close up again. They close again. So we were supposed to make a show in Rome, like Danny said. We have to think about outside the box, okay? And so we think about making a webinar for training the guys, and we bring somebody. And then next week we will have Joey Legend, and then Mike Bailey. We start talk with some other promotion, and make partnership to be more strong when we will come back. And every month we think now we come back, and it doesn't happen. Now in Italy we are maybe amongst the last country in the number of vaccines. Okay, we locked first, and we are the last. So now I don't see the lights and at the end of the tunnel. Okay, at the end of the road. But we had more partnership than ever. So what can I hope is that the future is brighter for us, because we partner up with promotion in Canada, with promotion in Mexico, USA, Australia, India. So we cooperate. We want to cooperate to be stronger and having so much more ideas about the business. Okay, good idea about business, to making business together, to be not alone, because in Italy the scene is very little, but we are growing up, and we recently the pandemic was positive to us because we bring somebody as our trainer, former Noah Eschizzani in WWE, and we talk a lot with so much promoter, and we are making a good improvement also on social media. To me, was an opportunity to bring my experience on social media, not only to AWA, but with everyone I talk about wrestling, because I'm a marketing digital specialist. And so pandemic has very, very bad problems, but I take it like an opportunity to improve Italian Wrestling Association and all the wrestling scene in my point of view on social media, and everything is about promoting yourself on the media and something like this. So I'm optimistic about the future. I'm not, but I think one thing we have in common, all the promoters, is that pandemic set up all the promotion on the same level. So we have to restart. Like we never did shows again before, sorry, and we have to improve ourselves and make wrestling scene looks even better than before.
Yeah.
Vince, what's it been like over in India?
Okay.
Me, right? So yeah, my name is Vinayak Sodki. People call me Vince, and I'm the promoter of India's first wrestling promotion. It is known as Wrestle Square Pro Wrestling. So when I started the company, there was no other company in India. So it was quite difficult for me to learn everything like I cannot travel to America because it's quite expensive, and it's the American wrestling we have been watching from 2 decades, from more than 20 to 30 years. And we have seen WWE, WCW, everything on TV that was broadcasted on our television sets. But to learn the things, I had to do a lot of struggle, and it took me like 3 years to properly learn everything professional side as a promoter of the independent professional wrestling scene. So before that, as I have told you, I had to do a lot of struggle to get on the level where I was in 2019. And it was a great time for me. In 2019, I had opportunity to do a television show that is known as Win Dangal Ke Surma. That was like on the same channel where the Lucha Underground and New Japan Pro Wrestling and all the ROH big promotions were going. And I was super excited that like it's not much, that it's only 4 years and I have came so far. But then our TV show started to get on the TV, and the ratings were really good. And in February, we did a show with my friend's company that is in Thailand, and it was known, if you can search on Google, it is the event name is Bangkok Showdown. And we had Ami Sakura from AEW there, and the Masa Takanishi from DDT, and other wrestlers, including we have our wrestler Bali Anaki, which who is the only wrestler in Japan from India. We did a mega show there, and it was like a dream come true for everyone, because we had the deal with the Sports Kira Wrestling, which is the wrestling news site, you know. It is the like one of the topmost wrestling site on the internet about the wrestling news, and we had the live broadcast on their Facebook page, and there were 30,000 people who were watching our show live, and it was really huge for me. And I was like in my prime time that just had TV show, and now I had this big exposure. And the only next month only, I run a wrestling academy also, because initially I have learned that there are very less wrestlers who are talented, who are original. Like most of the people who goes to the pro wrestling training school, they just copy from the big leagues like WWE and all that. But there are very less wrestlers who build the originality in their style. And so I was running a professional wrestling school as well. So it was March, and I had like 10 students joining me in, and it was the biggest like number of students coming to my academy. And on 20th of March, I really got shocked when the government announced that there will be the lockdown. And because the space I have for my academy is a rented space, and so it was really shocking for me that during my prime time, I had this big hit from this pandemic. And I was really shocked. And my academy was closed for 6 months, but still I had to pay the rent and all that. And the TV show we produced, we had sponsors and investors who were going to put money in our next season. They just wiped off, and they never pick up the call again, because they say they are like done. They cannot afford to invest in the wrestling anymore. So it was a pretty tough time for me. But in September, I have started to work again, producing like before. As all of I may be the youngest wrestling promoter here. My age is 32 anyways. So basically, like most of you guys are like have a lot of experience in producing the wrestling shows. But talking about, I'm not really good in the running the YouTube and all that on online promotions about the wrestling thing. Although my job is like a digital marketer, but we just do the work we are assigned to do. So by the time there was a lockdown, I have learned a lot of things. And like we started to produce like a YouTube show from our academy only, and that gave more confidence to the wrestlers, and we have like had more cameras and more lightings, and this was a good example that we did not stop at all. And till the time there will be public events reopened by the government again, we will be keep doing. And right now I'm just opening a big academy that will be like double of size of my current academy, and from there I will be focusing on producing more talent and the more content for the internet wrestling fans. And I will wait patiently until I get the chance again to to be on the TV screens once again. And I'm ready for everything, because the time we spent in the lockdown was precious, and I like learned each and every day. And although it is like very bad time for everyone, but I used it wisely, and I will be implementing the things I've learned in upcoming time. So I was I was hindered, my progress was hindered, but I am really positive about the things which are going to come in the future. Anyone have got any question, please ask me.
Well, and I think what you just said kind of led into something I'm curious about, because given this past year, and it's still going on, of course, and there's still lockdowns and everything happening, but what have been things that you've learned from this past year that you do hope to take forward and to use going forward?
Firstly, when I began this company, I was more concerned about organizing the live events, and I organized about 15 events, live events in India, and there were many internationally as well. So the thing I have learned, that people in India are they are very much, they are not like what I want to say, that they still think that wrestling is not a work. They think it's real stuff. And when we organize events, it is really tough to control the audience. And in India, we need to take several permissions from the government authorities. And most of the people think that wrestling is a violent sports, because you know that it's been only 5 to 6 years since the wrestling company started to growing up in India. So but still I have learned from many promoters that how they are doing it. They are doing in a they have a list of the venues available, and they are doing in the same venues again and again. So they are more comfortable doing event in the same place again and again. And that's what I have decided, that next time when I'm going to do event, I'm going to repeat those venues again and again, so I can just have more comfortability taking the permissions and all the things, explaining to people that what pro wrestling is all about. And the second thing which I have learned is that the internet, the YouTube, like most of the promotions I see on internet, like there are many promotions like Michinoku Pro Wrestling and all that. They came on the internet, YouTube, like I met the owner of Michinoku Pro Wrestling. He's a legend, and their company is legendary. Everyone heard its name, but they came on the YouTube during the pandemic when the lockdown was there. And imagine what if they were doing it before. And similarly, me, if I was focusing more on the YouTube, I had more more promotion, more exposure in the word of between the fans and between the companies. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to concentrate more on my online presence now. And we did like online seminars and all those things also with the in the training part, and it is really beneficial to, we can develop the wrestlers character, we can teach them psychology on these seminars also. So what I have learned that this technology we must adapt, otherwise we will fail as a promoter and even as a human being. Yes, please ask.
Okay, so you said that people believe that wrestling is real. Do you know, is that something that you like, that your audience believes that wrestling is real? And if so, why do you like? Because personally, I hate it. Like, we're like, between the start time and the finish time, everyone's a character, but before and after that, they're not characters. You want to come and meet the cast, come and meet the cast. You know, that's absolutely fine. Like, that's how I hate the word sport involved in wrestling. I passionately detest the word sport. It's not a sport, you know. So like, but the story of the show is that it's a sport. So I'm always intrigued about the idea of people that still think it's real, because eventually there's going to come a time when they know it's not. So if you're happy about that, are you thinking about how to, you know, then engage with that issue once you get to that point?
So basically what I personally think is people should believe in the action, what they are seeing, right? Because if you watch a movie, you don't think that it is a movie. You just watch it and like get entertained with it. You don't feel the punch in the movie. You don't feel falling down when you see the Marvel movie. So basically in pro wrestling, Indian people, what think is it is real. Actually, it's everyone know it's arts and entertainment based sports. But especially when I have to like do a live event, I have to explain it to the several authorities, because they are like people who are mostly offline, not online. Like if I have to take the permission from the police, they see wrestling as a violent sport. And even when we organize event, there are some cases when fans try to attack, abuse the wrestlers.
How do you handle that, if you don't mind me interrupting to ask you?
Yeah, that actually cost us a lot to have a lot of security, and that is one of the reasons. Yeah.
Would it not be better, hypothetically speaking, or maybe putting to you, the idea of, you know, having it out there that this is a live theatrical production, this is a movie come to life, this is, you know, these are actors that are highly skilled in fight choreography, dance, and who do their own stunts, and who include a degree of improv as well, you know, putting on a scripted show, you know. So just like you suspend your disbelief in a movie, you would also suspend your disbelief between the show.
I would like to, yeah, that's a great question, and I'd like to explain it. Like, of course, you must be seeing me for the first time, and you must maybe hearing the Wrestle Square for the first time. But there are people from India.
Emmy had actually told me about you guys. Emmy works for me whenever flights allow. Emmy works for us, so like I know,
yes,
and I know Aki very well.
Yes, so he told me that you are a great person.
Oh,
and
very kind.
So coming back to the question, like there are people who are like very famous in India, like the great Kali, and whenever he gets on the TV and reporters ask him, is wrestling real or fake? You know what he always reply? It's real. He like the people who are on the top never try to explain that it is a art. It is a like everything is happening for the real, but similarly to you have to believe in the action. It is a entertainment basic sports. So if those people say that it is a real thing, then who will listen to us? Like who will listen to the small promoters who are growing up?
I think Kali's in his own kind of level though, because Kali's level of celebrity, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're there, I'm here, you're going to have a better understanding of this than I will. But Kali's level of celebrity in India is quite extraordinary. Whereas, you know, we live in an age now where, you know, I can have a load of those wrestlers that are well-known names around the world, you know, come and do interviews, for example, on our YouTube channel, or even just be a part of our shows. I mean, I've, you know, literally everyone from Aja Kong and Bret Hart to Vader and Yuka Sakazaki have worked for me. And all of those people have spoken to fans as though they're watching a show. So I think, Carl, I think that might be perhaps a more of a cultural thing rather than specific to a wrestler. My opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, obviously.
It's a thin line though, man, because if you're over here in the States, man, I mean, everybody knows that wrestling isn't real anymore. I hate to say that because we all know it's real, like the way but like he runs a thin line. He's in a place where everybody thinks that wrestling is spot on, and it's happening. The suspension of disbelief is already there when he shows up. I mean, in England and Europe, there's still wrestling fans that are excited. They still play the character. You know, you get over to the States and wrestling is fake, man. I mean, it's changed to the point where nobody believes it's real in any way anymore. So the wrestling fan has gotten fickle and pretty tough on it. So it's just, I mean, it might not be a good thing that, you know, his fans show up and think it's wrestling real, but it might also be a bad thing, man. I mean, because
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm completely against the idea of anybody thinking that wrestling is real. That's why I'm intrigued as to the idea behind it, and also the long-term thought process, because eventually people are going to find out. Like, I don't know how big MMA is in India, but eventually, it's not, no, but at some point it's gonna be, because you know that is the fastest growing sport in the world. And sooner or later, someone's going to quickly realize that if you grab someone by the wrist and throw them in the ropes, they're just not going to run and come bouncing back at you for a clothesline or a back body drop. And you know, they're going to know what real fighting actually looks like within a sporting environment. You know, is there a concern of backlash when that happens?
Yes, when of course people like if we organize some kind of show and people like, there are always some workers who like do not connect well. They do a lot of botches, and like that spoils the performance of everyone, all the wrestlers who are doing it professionally. Like in every sport, there are techniques and rules. In professional wrestling, it is also the game is about technique, not about hurting or killing anyone. So basically what happens is when they find out that they are doing the botch and fake things, people really get angry. And sometimes I remember I did an event in Indore. That time I was like, our promotion was 2 year young only, and we had like 5,000 crazy fans in the event. And there were a lot of newspaper coverage, and one of those newspaper coverage had really bad thing about our show, that the people were acting that they are better than the Hollywood actors.
They're better?
Yeah,
that's brilliant. That's superb.
Yeah.
What a compliment. You know, better than the award-winning Bollywood actors.
Yes, but it was the headline, but in the like, if you read it, the article was really shit, and people people really gets hurt when they find out that wrestling is like a entertainment sports. So
Vin,
it is still like my 6th year in professional wrestling here, but I hope to improve this in coming 4 years, that I would be like creating the documentaries and all that. So whoever learns about the wrestling must have the idea that what the professional wrestling struggle, everything is all about.
Vin, can I ask you something? I'm
Yes,
Diego
sure.
from Italy. Okay, when you run a show, you have wrestling fans, or you have occasionally fans, usually?
Like the success of every company is a fan base, right?
Okay.
So whenever we run the show, we run in a different cities, and there were really rare chances to do in the same city. So we always have the new fans, and so it is the same thing you were asking me, right?
No, I think the occasional fans, or maybe people who usually don't see wrestling on TV, maybe they could think that it's real for that reason.
Okay, so you mean to say that the people who are coming to our event are the people who haven't seen the wrestling before, or the fans? So basically, like in India, as everyone knows that the population is really high, and like if I talk about the India is the number one consumer in like wrestling content. If you watch the WWE channel, you will find the most people liked are from India. So it is very, very famous. Like every, like 1 person out of 10, not even 10 out of 5 people will know what is the WWE is, because as I mentioned before, it's been on the TV sets from almost 25 years. So like our events are like mostly people who have seen the wrestling in the past, or they regularly watching it, and there are very like few fans who never watch this kind of show.
Okay, because in Italy we have the opposite problem. In Italy, most of the people that don't know who Bruno Sammartino is, but Bruno is Italian. Okay, was Italian wrestler. So every time we went to a new town, we have that problem that people believe that wrestling was real, because maybe the biggest heel start to insult the fans. Okay, your town is like a bad town, my town is better, or something like this, and we have people got angry. So was the opposite problem than yours. Okay.
Anyone have got question or suggestions for me?
Well, I kind of want to hear from Jeremy and Dan, though, too, this idea of, and Diego as well, what are you learning from this time period that you are hoping to be able to continue doing in the future?
I've been trying to push our workers to understand that the internet is a very free and very nice widespread tool for them to get their character work across to other people. There's a lot of wrestlers in Florida, like a lot where I'm at. I think there's 82 indie promotions, and then MLW running, AEW running, WWE running, ROH down here sometimes. New Japan's come here a couple times now. So like I've just been trying to get them to work on their character work and work on their branding and work on it. Wrestling here has gotten to the point where, you know, a lot of the wrestlers in America think that if they do something on the internet or they say something, they're marks. They're crazy. They can't do that. They're too veteran to. But the pandemic has taught a lot of them to reassess that. Like you have people like take Serpentico, for example. He's on AEW now. Serpentico spent the whole pandemic period putting out little vignettes on Twitter and on Facebook about, you know, 2-3 minutes long. He was doing them back and forth with Hammerstone from MLW. And you could argue that Serpentico got signed to AEW because he spent the whole pandemic improving himself. So we've, at least at Generation Championship Wrestling, we've spent a lot of time during the pandemic. We already put out a lot of video content. We already put out things hourly. But that's us as a company. Now we're trying to make it so that the workers understand that, look, times have changed. It's time to start using these tools that we have. You're not a mark if you put out some cool content. You're working. So we've just literally spent it like doing that, preaching that, get stuff out, get this out. This is what you need to do. What if the world stops tomorrow and you can't go do wrestling events? You have to keep people invested. This is what you do as an entertainer. You know, you just entertain. I've been an entertainer. I'm 42 next week. I've been an entertainer since I was 16 years old. I was in the music industry. I still run food events all over the country. We own the wrestling company now, and on occasionally I'm the evil jackass owner of the company that gets out and talks to you. But the fact of the matter is, like, as an entertainer, you can't stop. A pandemic, that I'm sorry, a lot of entertainers, like, dude, we don't get birthdays, we don't get weddings, we don't get funerals, we don't get days off. That's what we do. It's our job as entertainers that when the world is going to shit around us, pardon my language, when everything's going bad around us, an entertainer's job is supposed to take people out of that funk and give them something different to think of. I mean, like, so that's what we've been preaching. We've been preaching, like, look, you want to do this, you want to be an entertainer, you want to be a worker, you want to endear these fans to you that spend their hard-earned time and money on you, then you need to keep going. So that's what we've done. And it's it's taught a lot of the vets a new way to do things, because the young guys are still pretty susceptible to what you say and they'll listen. So it's getting a lot of the older guys to reinvest in the sport, reinvest in the entertainment part of it, because it's great that you take a beautiful bump, and it's great that your chain wrestling's perfect and your positioning's nice and everything looks beautiful, but that's pretty sucky when you can't get in a ring and show that. So that's what we've been working on. We've been working on the entertainment portion of it. All of us are pretty damn good athletes, and the ones that aren't usually weed themselves out pretty quickly. So we've been working on the entertainment portion of it, and we've been doing okay. I mean, like I said, we all started back at zero kind of this year, and the ones that have been progressing are the ones that didn't stay at zero. You just can't. You got to work. Like I said, I'm setting up an event right now. There's a pandemic, but we got to work. I have other people setting up an event. I'm not. People behind me. Looking at me like I'm crazy. Yeah.
I'll let Diego go first.
Okay, thank you. I learned about how important social media without the way we performed before, because we couldn't able to perform live. So we have to entertain fans, we have to connect fans and stay connected with us and think that we are not dead. So pandemic happens, but wrestling scene has to continuing to exist.
Yeah.
Even here in Italy, there is very little scene. Mostly everyone was completely dead on social media. So the promotion post on social media maybe once a time every two months. So it was very hard to take the people connected. But we were the exception. We were the exception because we every day post something, and we are posting something new or something about our past or something, some jokes, some comedy, some memes, something like this. So people could laugh, could talk with us, could stay updated on everything that happens around IWA. And what I say to my trainees, because I'm only a promoter, I'm not a trainer, but what I say to them is improve social media, improve your look, because you have to look like a wrestler and not like random people who walks down the street, and improve how you talk through social media. So don't be involved in fighting or something like this. And be careful about what you say and what you do on social media. And private life is private life, public life is on social media. It's something different. So we improve our using of social media, and we think about how we can improve our school. So we made little improvements as the lights of the school, trying to make a web series when will be possible, a wrestling web series. And I started as a promoter, not I started, but I improved a lot. Like I studied so much about the stories of professional wrestlers like Freddie Blassie or Dusty Rhodes or something like this. So I studied the territories and try to in USA and try to learn something, because I'm a promoter, but I have to improve every day to make people to make my shows better, because is my responsibilities over the wrestler, the fans, and everything that goes around the pro wrestling business.
Just on notice something that Carrie then put in the chat was, what is the specific? Is there a specific aesthetic to looking like a wrestler? I mean, it's something that I actually disagree with, and what Diego said about everyone needs to look like a wrestler, because there are some people who it's all about characters. What character are you playing? It's up to, if you're an independent professional wrestler, then your job is to make sure that you're playing a character realistically that the audience can invest in. Maybe you are one of the people. Maybe that's your story. Maybe your arc is that you start off as one of those people that grows and becomes something else. It really depends. But as a professional wrestler from a business perspective, you know, your job is to make sure that you're offering something that promoters can't get with anyone else. Your job is to make sure that people are interested in you. You got Jazzy Gabert coming up shortly. She is a part of the Eve roster. If Jazzy's not working an Eve show, it's not like I can say, it's okay, I can book this person instead. There's only one alpha female. There's only one Jazzy. Jazzy has got that down. That's what makes Jazzy unique. That's why she is such an accomplished professional in professional wrestling. And that's the reason why she's able to get, you know, bookings. That's the reason why she's been able to work for TNA and WWE and all these other promotions and travel the world competing, because she has an act, a character, and a look that nobody else can do. Should be the same for pretty much everyone else. You know, don't try to be like everyone else. I think, you know, for any of us older guys, remember when Raven came along, everyone was like, oh, brilliant, I can wear jeans and cut off t-shirt now. And everyone tried to be like that. Or when Steve Austin then, and you know, a few years later, everyone then wanted to look exactly like him. I realize I'm a bald guy with a goatee saying that, but that's not the basis of the look. I assure you, age has done that to me. It's just more a case of, you know, your job is to interact and get emotion from an audience and to fully flesh out a character and make yourself unique and special. So, you know, some guys are going to be giants. Some guys are going to be Marco Stunt, but all of them should have an audience that are going to be emotionally invested to go on a journey with them. So that's where I differ on the idea of, you know, a standard or you know, the idea that everyone needs to look a certain way. I never liked, there was a period with WWE, I realize we're running long, so I'll quickly, you know, finish this. But there's a period where WWE just had a whole bunch of people look exactly the same. And that was a period where I stopped watching wrestling. I stopped watching WWE. I never stopped watching wrestling, but I absolutely stopped watching WWE. Because it was just generic. Everything's the same. Everything's a factory, and that's not what I'm interested in. I want a variety act. If I go to the circus, I don't want to see clowns for 3 hours. I want to see a mixture. I want to see a variety of performances and entertainments and different things that are going to engage me. Just like we have different match types, we should have different body types, different character types, all of those things. I'll end it there because I know we're running really late. Sorry, Carolyn.
It's okay. I mean, I think that's an interesting way to end too, and it kind of brings up that idea of how, especially when you're talking about a pandemic, I love that I've heard, you know, from Diego, we have to find ways of building bridges and getting stronger together, and the idea from Dan of breaking the rules and, you know, trying to be creative and doing new things. And, you know, from Jeremy and from Vince, we hear more about the need to have an online presence and to, you know, keep putting things out, even if you can't be doing what you originally were set out to do, because that variety and that ability to innovate, I think, is something that is definitely what I hope a lot of other people in a lot of different industries are learning from this pandemic. So I want to thank you all for coming in and sharing your insights. There are some other things, of course, that were in chat, and I can send them to you. I think there's several people now who want to travel to India and do some ethnographies on India wrestling. So Vince, you may have some guests coming over some
Yes,
point
sure.
in the next.
I would be glad to have my friends like you guys are experienced ones, because in your countries the wrestling is running from the long time, and it would be a great opportunity for me to learn from all the veterans and the people who are running. Yes, I'm running show in all over India, but I am opening a type of a studio where I will have the people sitting like in the stadium. Like, so it will be like a mini stadium where we can have tapings, and like 100 to 200 people can sit and enjoy the wrestling.
There's all kinds of wonderful things going on, and I'm glad you're all here to share your experiences, and I wish you the best and going forward in your various countries, and, you know, hopefully it gets better.